All right.
We're
A lot of
back
fun
at ya.
hearing from some of our favorite wrestlers, and of course, one of our all-time favorites is right here.
Yes,
Nick
indeedy.
Bockwinkel. And we spoke last show about this gentleman, and once again, I'd like to give the quick Prima-Donn quiz. Who is this wrestler? Take a good look at this handsome, incredibly fit, good-looking athlete.
Body and face everybody would want, right?
Body and face that
any male, I
anybody
mean,
would
any
be
male.
more than happy to have. And take a look at this other one next to it a few years later. That's Mad Dog Vachon. And Nick, you said something to us off camera earlier about a story you have about Mad Dog in an airplane. Can you share that with us?
There was a number of years that the AWA owned a two-seater, or rather a two-engine Navajo Chieftain airplane, and it usually was a 10-seater. It was brought down to 2, and technically officials were supposed to fly around in it. And occasionally what would happen is you'd have wrestlers and the promoters and referees and other people would be getting on it, and the plane kind of traveled pretty much all around the Midwest. On this one given night, the plane was going from Omaha to Minneapolis, and sitting in the back by the door was Mad Dog Vachon and Adrian Adonis. And I knew how to fly, and I was sitting up in the right front seat, pilot, and we're cruising along at 10,000 feet. And just like in the movies, there's this loud, horrendous crashing sound, and the airplane's going, and wind is whistling through the airplane. So, you know, we figured something hit us. But just as quick as it happened, and the pilot grabbed the stick, and there was a red light that came on up here at the same two, and I'm looking at the two tachometers were right in front of us. And in an airplane, even though there's that noise and sound, you don't know if engines are running or not. So I looked there first, and about that time the pilot said, he said, "We got power." I said, "We got power," and this red light came on, which meant we had a door that was open. We didn't know if it was a luggage door, the door to the back of the airplane, one of the, like I said, one of the luggage compartments, or out on the wing, on the engine places. And so we said, "What's going on back there?" They said, "The door is open." It happened that about a month before this, I'm reading an article that planes of this size that carry from 6, say, to 20 passengers, two-engine planes, props, that the number of them that would fly with the door hanging down, this was the only one that would fly that way. Had this been any other brand, plane would have been on its way down. So anyway, he calls in an emergency, and he says, and they says, "Okay, head for Fort Dodge, Iowa. There's an old military runway there. It's very wide." They said the only thing is you got a 30-mile-an-hour wind out of the south, and the runway is heading straight west. So we got the door hanging down, and we got to land this way. So I said to the pilot, I said, and he was a Northwest pilot, I said, "What are you going to do?" He says, "Well, I'm going to come in on a 45-degree angle of that southern wind and kind of like just touch down on the corner of the runway as tight as I can. Maybe we'll roll across. If we roll off onto the grass, maybe we'll be going slow enough that it won't tear the airplane up, but we'll be on the ground." And he says, "Maybe I'll be able to turn it down the runway." And God bless him.
Maybe.
Yeah. And God bless him. He did. He just took and he set that thing down and just gently. It was a real wide runway, and was able to get it down. So we all get off the airplane. He says, "Nick, I need to know if the airplane door opened by itself or if somebody fooled with it." So Dog was sitting by the thing. And so I went back and I said to him, I said, "Excuse me, Dog," I said, "can I talk to you for a minute?" And we stepped off to the side, and I said to him, I says, "How did the door open?" And the Dog says, "I opened the door."
That'll explain it.
I couldn't argue with the statement, and I says, I figured, "Why did you open the door, Dog?" "It was a gorgeous night. I thought we should have some fresh air." And there's people who think that, they saw this guy on TV carrying on the way he carried on, that when he got off TV, he was just a normal, average guy.
Wrong.
Legitimately opened the door. Best part of it was, for whatever reason, well, what had happened, he had some pain pills, and he had had a few beers, and supposedly Adrian had given him a Quaalude, which would help the pain on this bad knee that he had. And but he threw his wrestling boots out the airplane. Now I'm trying to think of the farmer the next day that finds 2 black little boots in the middle of a field with no footprints, a half a mile from the nearest road, and then we start saying, extraterrestrial beings? What kind are they? But yeah, so that was just one of Mad Dog's little stories.
And I imagine you know some other
yes, I do.
Stories about that gentleman.
Yes, I do, and a lot of the others.
Well, Champ, I'd like to ask you about the first time you strapped that belt on right there after, is that when you defeated Verne Gagne? St. Paul Civic
Yes,
Center?
well, actually, this was not the belt that I won from him. The belt that I won from him, I was wrestling him before that or after that down in Davenport, Iowa, at a baseball park in the summertime, and the match had just ended, and somebody at ringside, the timekeeper, laid the belt up on the apron. Somebody snatched the belt, ran out with it, out of the ballpark, stole it. And then he was in some bar showing it to people, and then when he found out that that he was going to go, it was a federal offense, not a federal, but a criminal offense, because the thing was worth $10,000. And broke the thing up and put it into a bank deposit vault. And it got returned, but it was all in shambles and pieces. Oh. So then this one was made after that. And at that point, insurance company says, we're not insuring these things. So the silver, all of it winds up being plated. The silver winds being plated, the gold being plated, and the stones are all, of course, imitation stones, because they no longer would insure these things because of the fact that we traveled so much with them. But of course, that's not the case. It's emblematic, and that's what the condition of it is now. Of course, we talked about that.
Yeah, and let's get to that story first, but let's just touch on Verne Gagne here for a moment.
Sure.
Somebody that obviously you've gone around a few times with. Tell us about Verne and how you matched up, and how do you rank Verne?
Very good, very highly. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you don't have accomplished what he's accomplished over the years, even after I came into the picture, without having to say that he's one of the great all-time wrestlers as well. Probably his biggest asset that he has was his tenacity. If you said your arm is going to be broken if you don't give up, you'd break his arm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the nature of the way he wrestled. He was that intense. And that's very hard to defeat somebody of that stature when they have that kind of a tenacity. And again, here we are. We're 2 busted up old veterans, and so I see him at charity events every now and then. It's casual hello and the whole thing. But
nobody has to step in between you, or?
No, not really. Of course, I love to tweak his ego, which is far more sensitive than mine is. So anytime I get a chance, I oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like I say, the bodies get old, and you respect what you can't do anymore, but egos stay young forever.
Now, once again, of course, the half hour goes so fast here on the Prima-Donns, especially when we're blessed with a guest like you, Champ.
Thank you.
We were talking about the belt, and if we could get another shot of the belt.
Yeah,
it's not easy to see, but there does seem to be some wear. And you were telling us about a night in Denver, and quite a chaotic scene. Apparently, you were about to wrestle Stan Hansen for the world's title.
I lost the belt to Rick Martel. I lost the belt to Jumbo Shiruta. Jumbo Shiruta from Japan came over here, and Rick Martel beat him, and then Stan Hansen beat Rick Martel. And now this is a rematch between Stan Hansen and I in Denver, Colorado. And Stan Hansen got to the building and didn't realize it was a championship match, and for whatever reason, then decided to leave the building and take the belt with him and not even wrestle that night. And so what ultimately happened, and he kept claiming he was the world's heavyweight champion, and the championship committee voted to give the title back to me under the circumstances, and because the tournament would have been too long. And But Hansen's running around saying he's still world champion because he had the belt. So they served him with a letter from an attorney, and Stan, who was close with $1, couldn't see himself going to hire an attorney. And so he immediately sent it back, but we know for a fact that he must have run over it with his pickup because it had a curve to it, and it was flattened, and all sorts of pieces broke loose and were off. And so, anyway, but it did come back. So it's been restored to as best as it can.